All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Y'all ready?
Yes, we are.
Let's break it on.
All right, let's go, folks. It is May 17th, 2022, and behold, you have none other than the Truth Be Told show right here in your faces, ready to rock it out with you today. Let's go. Let's get it popping.
All right, cue the music.
Cueing music.
Start the music.
Starting music.
And go.
It's the Truth Be Told show, where we place America first. Honoring those who America has forgotten. Listen in and unlearn to relearn. As we set the record straight. And now, your host of the Truth Be Told show, Mr. Just Ask Joe and Uncle Mishorn.
All right, guys. It is again Tuesday, May 17, 2022. Folks, just remember, this is the only Tuesday, May 17, 2022 that you will ever get in your life. I'm sure I'm a believer that there are time travelers out there, people that have invented how to move about our worlds, in and out of our worlds through time, though they are not selling it at Walmart as of yet. So, as of right now, this is the only May 17, 2022 Tuesday that you will get in your life. So make it a great one. Right now, it's the Truth Be Told show, and I'm going to hand it over to my brothers here. How's y'all doing?
Hey, listen up.
Doing well.
Hey, this is Uncle Mishorn, and I just want to let it all be known. I'm glad to be here on this Tuesday. Man, I couldn't wait to try to get back in my camp. You know, it's nothing like when you're in your camp. Okay, you go to other people's camp, you're in their camp. All right, but when you come to your camp, it's your camp. Okay, and I just want to thank you, Joe, for getting us back and making us space for our camp and everything. So how everybody doing? What's up, Marcus? How you doing, bro?
Oh, doing well. Another election day. Yeah, another election day.
Peter Hayes, how you doing, bro?
Wonderful. I'm excited. As Marcus just said, today's our Kentucky primary, and we got a lot of ballots, a lot of folks, candidates on the ballot. So it's a great day for our constitutional republic.
Yeah, and Ali, you seem to be a little special hanging out with us and everything.
Well, I am special. Thank you so much.
I see that you were.
Well, I'm really blessed to even meet you guys. Truth to Be Told show is needed in our world today. There's so many. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, Ali? I appreciate that, man. And in all truthness, I am blessed and feeling fortunate that the Truth Be Told show is on the air and everything, because it seems like it's needed. You know, we got a lot of unnatural things happening in our community. We got the shooting that took place and everything all across the world and everything. Hey, Joe. You know, that bro, you missed the great press conference that Peter and I participated in concerning the shooting and everything that took place. But before we go there, we got a guest coming on today, right, Joe?
Yeah, he may be coming on. You know, this is Chartrell Hall, and just remember, folks, these guys are extremely busy. It is election day, and ultimately, we'll see if he can make it. If he can't, it's all good, because this is a conservative Republican brother who ultimately, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I heard him speak, and I began to love this brother. You know, I like what he stands for in marriage and family. I like the fact that he's young. You know, I don't think we need we need to stop that's another petition. Stop old white men from getting into office. I mean, we got to stop that. It's you can't be 82 years old trying to get into office, man. I don't know. Maybe it ain't just old white men. Maybe it's just you got to be able to relate to people. You should be within a 30-year span of a 35-year span of a 1-year-old or something. I don't know. I mean, we got to do something when it comes to that, because they get in office and they get comfortable and they stay there, man. And I ain't gonna lie, I loved Mayor Fisher. He ain't do everything all proper and whatnot, but I enjoyed Mayor Fisher. I loved his business background, his family's business background. I enjoyed him in general as a person. Now, as a leader of the community, hey man, all I know is them murder rates is rising. So that's something we gotta think about.
I don't know how we put that on. I don't know how we put that.
Yeah,
on
that's what I was about to say. I don't know how we put that on him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcus.
No, I just said I
right.
think that as we look at our community or any other, what we do in our community for self-worth and some of those other things, I think directly contribute to some of the crime and things that we see. And so I hear often that let's look at what cities are run by Republicans and what cities are run by Democrats and check their rate. And I don't think that's a fair shake for any one of them. I did happen to see your show this past week, and we talked about what conservatism is. It's not a party. Now, the Republicans have done a good job at making it seem like they are the conservative party. Mm-hmm. But conservatism is an idea who they've latched on to. So there are plenty of conservatives that reside in both parties.
And I'll be honest with you. I think that the melanated community, the ADS community, needs to understand that in general, as creators, as spirit-minded, connected to the universe, creatives of the world, we are way more conservative people than we've been told.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem, is we do things based on what we're told to do, as opposed to doing things based on what we actually like to do. Our community is a lot more conservative. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring to the stage, folks, Republican mayoral candidate Shartrell Hall. Sir, thank you and welcome to the Truth Be Told show. How you doing there, sir?
I'm doing well. Just getting the children situated. I'm doing well this morning. Got out and voted early, 6 a.m. at Evangel. So it's a beautiful day. How's everybody doing? Good to see everyone this morning.
Hey, good morning to you. How you doing, man? How you doing?
It's election day, man. So how you feeling today?
I'm at peace. Obedience is greater than sacrifice. I've done what I was called to do, what I've been given in vision, what I was told by the Holy Spirit. I'm at peace. So great, get out here the next hour. We have 3 prominent locations we're going to be at: Heritage Creek, Berrytown, and Westport. So we're going to be out there just talking to some people. My team, the Trailblazers, will be out there for a couple hours, talking to some people. But we've done everything that we could do. Ran the race as we were instructed. So just looking forward to tonight, the watch party, relaxing, talking, eating some food with family and friends.
Well, listen up, man. I want to, this Uncle Me, Sean, you've been trying to get with me and holler at me and talk with me. You said you've been following me. You've been liking my astute conversation and everything. I actually was pretty happy when you saw me. You said astute. Yeah. I said, you're paying attention. You've been listening and everything. That's good. So, I just want to let you know, man, you got to come strong, but you can't be all alone. We a time show here, right? So I want to hear what you got to say. Okay, drop it on us and everything. Then we're gonna bring some questions at you and everything. So bottom line is, we will give you the guest. So we will respect you. Nobody gonna disrespect you. That's one of the things I'm all about. You be a guest on our show, you get respect, okay? Because I believe in giving respect to other people and everything. But our time, okay, you got to come strong, and get on off. So let's hear what you got to say, man.
Well, I was just invited by Brother Joseph, so I know how to show.
Nah, bro. You are the guest, bro. We want to hear what you guys say. We want to hear from you.
Go ahead and tell us something about if there was one thing that people could take away with them as to why Chartrell Hall for mayor.
Did you know that you was coming on the Truth Be Told?
I did know. I just got the link. Yes, sir. I did know. So to answer your question, so I won't be long. Like I told you, I have things to get to. But to the why. It starts with the foundation. It's truly about love, right? Love for the Most High, love for self, love for others, right? How do we get to that place? So when it comes to me, I'm just a man of God. I'm a family man. I'm a husband. I'm a father, right? In that order. Right, without my wife or when I have my children. So I give my respect to my wife, definitely to the woman. She is wisdom. I'm a father. I'm a minister as well at Quinn Chapel, 1901 West Muhammad Ali Street in the West End. I'm also a man of Phi Beta Sigma, culture for service, service for humanity. Truly here to serve my people. Shaped and molded by this city, went from the projects of this city through the dangers, through the suffering, through the sacrifice, through the food stamps, commodities, so on and so forth. The struggle as a child. Once I got older and realized this struggle, realized this mindset, this condition, these habits, these traits, right? This down generation to generation, and why we keep doing the same thing simply because mother or father or grandmother. I realized I had the power to make a choice and a decision, but I wanted to know what I was doing and where I was going, so that required me to be still and stop moving, continuing on the trajectory I was on. So after going to Manual High School, Spalding University, Bellamy University, highly academic schools, playing basketball, then traveling the world for 7 years around China, Belgium, London, Holland, Germany, Mexico, playing basketball as well professionally, I then realized, what am I doing? I'm giving everything that was given to me, everything that made me, I'm giving it away to everyone else. And it's great. But at the same time, my home was suffering. And that's when the conviction hit. That's when the conviction really hit. And I looked in the mirror and said, what are you doing? What are you doing about home? What are you doing about the community, about those you grew up with that helped you or shaped you or whatever the case was? What are you doing? And I had to make a decision at 28 years old to quit and retire from playing professional basketball to come home. And that journey then brought me into, in 6 weeks, signing one of the largest deals, being a part of signing one of the largest basketball deals, youth basketball deals in the state, $40 million economic impact with the youth basketball tournaments at the Expo Center every summer. Sitting in rooms with the NBA to Louisville with Jay Bruce Miller and Joe Steyer and other individuals, being in big development rooms with Underhill and Associates, Todd Underhill and Luckett and Farley working on deals and such, just awarded me, these opportunities in these rooms. And so from that, it was then time to answer my mission, my calling, which is to inspire and empower. We do that from the highest platform. The city won't continue to be the same. It's changing. It's been changing. We're now at the point where my generation is the leaders of today, the Yeshuas, the Joshuas, the second generation. And so this is, my purpose. I feel like everyone else will do everything, but take that leap of faith into that highest position. So that's Chartrell. That's who I am.
Well, I'm gonna go in on you real quick like this, because I'm gonna have to, because you stepping in a conservative conversation, but I've been there. I've not been no other person but a conservative. Okay, I've never been registered as a Democrat. No, I never was registered. I'm registered now as an independent, but 35 plus years straight, I was registered as a conservative Republican. And I'm going to put this out here, all right? I gave lead to trying to get that 13%, okay, to vote to the Conservative Party when Trump stepped up. I was on Facebook. I took the hits. I was out there before anybody was even talking about us moving over and everything. Everybody was talking about black Democrats, and now you got people talking about black conservatives. I just totally denounce that black conservative ideology. Okay, it's conservative views, and we already said earlier, culturally we are already conservative people. We just got misdirected and everything, and gave our life to something that we have not been given the same doing. So I just want to say to you, bro, I need to clearly, because I've been hearing your religious overtone. I've been hearing your, I know you have your faith in your God and all that, but brother, why do you think being a conservative, okay, and going to the Republican, because you could have been a conservative and a Democrat. You could have been a conservative and Democrat, okay? But why you wanted to be a Republican in UK? So you can't just say, because Marcus just said you can be a conservative Democrat, but you said you want to be a conservative Republican. Why you did that?
Because our history, I know our history first off and doing my research. So I was a Democrat by my family. But when I looked at the parties of the two, I realized that me and my family align more on the Republican Party as a conservative. And so I appreciate you've been up for 35 years and that I'm now here, again, like I said, the generation that can bridge the divide and the gap, stepping up and stepping in. So the conservative values, I believe in the Republican side, of less government. The government should be there to aid, not be there to control. Also, when it comes to conservative and the Republican Party, I'm big on the family structure, man, woman, and child. I'm also pro-life. I'm not for abortion at all, for the discipline and structure of understanding within self what is needed and not killing off generations. Also, ownership of land, right? Home, business. You don't need someone to take care of you. You should be able to work and take care of yourself. So that's what did it for me, and starting this journey 3 years ago, and into these rooms and these conversations, and just building from there to get to this point in this place.
Hey, a couple questions here. We got one from the crowd. I got one that I want to spit real quick as well. You talked about being pro-life. Does abortion in any manner ever seem okay? For instance, rape, for instance. Is there any instances where abortion can be okay?
Rape, incest, and this is in the rights to life. Rape or incest, that's two big things for me, because I sat with my great grandparents, and I know where we derived from, and that was the case, coming from the plantation and from our family as well. So not an abortion clinic. I think it's a medical process that a doctor could perform, but not as far as an abortion clinic goes, because you still leave that open, and that percentage of that happening is like less than 1% of that being the case. So not that 1% doesn't matter, but I'm saying numbers. That is a
okay. So you're saying get rid of the abortion clinics, and in the instance of potential rape, incest, immoral issues, then there's a conversation to be had about abortion. All right, I got you. There's a question here as well. It says, greetings, Hall. Your thoughts about trans men competing in women's sports and being taught in schools?
No. I mean,
I love that. I love that joke.
No, a man, a woman is a woman. No, it's two. You're created as you are, with it fully equipped with what you have. For a man to go into a woman's field, into a woman's lane, no, that is altering and removing balance, because there's balance for a reason. That when I see that, I don't get emotional, as many do, because I'm like, that's off, that's wrong. I hear the complaints, but what are we gonna do about it is the question, other than just sit at home and just talk about that. But no, I'm against that.
Yeah, I guess as a follow.
I love that Chappelle joke where he talked about LeBron James becoming a transgender or whatever, and then going to the WNBA and then scoring 800 points a game.
I see that in the movie Juwanna Mann. Saw that in Juwanna.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same. You know that movie from the 90s. It's the no, and that it seemed funny at the time, but when you get older and you look at that, you're like, no, bruh, no. We're not
Hey, Peter. What you saying, Peter?
Oh yeah, kind of as a follow-up, you played professional basketball overseas, and Matt, what's happening with a lot of these athletes. That one swimmer, big old dude, he was like, he couldn't cut it in the NCAA, and then he turned out, now he's a woman and he's winning all the national medals and cheating these women out of their medals, and the NCAA is supporting that craziness.
Well, that's another system. The NCAA is all about money. It's all about power, control, by means. That's the same thing when it comes to collegiately. Same things when it comes to youth basketball. The NCAA controls youth basketball as well, as far as the college coaches being able to come to view players. So when we talk about this entity that owns nothing, they put a system in place. Understand what the NCAA is, Peter. They put a system in place. They have colleges, right? They're like an Airbnb, like an Uber, like a Lyft.
Yeah.
It's control over because they made something so shiny and the college was like, ooh, we need to be a part of that, but you don't. Look at Notre Dame. But because go back to Sean's point of because what we've been told and what's mainstream and what we feel like we must do to go along and get along or to be in, we would rather go and do whatever, a lot of times going against what we know is not right. And that's where a stance has to be taken. A stance has to be taken.
But Mr. Hall, I all those things are great. And that's a much broader scale. But right here in the city of Louisville, what is it as mayor that you propose to do for the city of Louisville as mayor?
So the biggest plight, you look at my plan, my website. I don't know what else you want to type it in, www.hall502.com. People can look at my website and my plans. But the biggest thing is the unity, the division that's within the city. I've been across. I actively, currently now, I'm not sure. I can't see everybody's name. I don't want to. What's your name, sir? I don't want
to. Marcus Ray. No, we're fine.
Marcus, I've actively been in the community, bridging the divide. I talk about how my wife, Shelby Hall, she's white, right? It's classification. My children are mixed. Team members that I have.
She's an American, bro. On this show, we don't use color like that, bro. You marrying an American, all right? And I'm sorry I had to jump in there, but we gonna on this show. You come on this show, all right? You represent being an American descendants of slaves, but don't bring that color stuff on here, bro. All right.
We still are in the world. I respect your standpoint, Sean. We're still in the world. We're out in the world. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, we're not gonna break down 402 years of something in a few years. So it's understood.
If my wife stood next to me, she looks like Peter. And looks like Peter.
Well, I hope she
looks better than Peter.
She's better than me. My goodness, brother.
The hue of Peter Hayes.
There we go.
There you go.
In the hue of having my team collective that people are seeing from Guyanese, from Vietnamese, from Algerian. Peter witnessed some of these individuals on my team already. So bridging that unity first and foremost, okay? Understanding that I can go into, which I do, into the homeless camps, and then in the same step and reach, be in a meeting with a Junior Bridgman, right? Be in a meeting with a Todd Underhill, right? Be in a meeting. So it's that piece of being able to bring that divide. The public safety issue when it comes to violence, right? These young people, the ones that are in control right now are my peers. It's been passed on to my peers, right? And the younger generation, younger than me, where the older generation, you don't even understand what they're going through. Because where we were struggling to try to get it out the mud, they ride with 50, 60 racks in the trunk, right? They have money, they have J's, they have these things. Their struggle is different of identity crisis of not having fathers. So I'm proposing in the selection of proper leadership, appointing the proper chief and so forth in the staff and corrections and really doing a vetting process in Louisville internally, which I've been meeting with former police chiefs, former correction officer chiefs, bringing the juvenile delinquent system back to Louisville, JCYC, putting these structures in, right, with men in place as well, to be able to help these young boys, because a boy needs a man, needs a father. You have to use consultation with the former gang leaders and drug dealers who are now on the other side, and those who are incarcerated and the criminals. You have to use them because they want to be used. They want to see this change as well, so we don't continue to going down this path, right? There has to be a piece of key. But then mental health is such a big issue because everything has messed up our mental. It already was, but then the continuum up from violence, right? We talk about how grades and performance decrease for 2 weeks after each gunshot, right? Action takes place, whether someone was murdered or not. Just the fact of guns being fired, sirens every night. You have to look the issue with COVID, right? With sickness, with vaccines, all of these things being pushed at you, and everybody has phones and technology, and you're constantly taking this in. So our mental health piece has to be big with our empowerment centers, like Jamon Brown and others are looking to bring to the city. We have to start backing these resources, and we have to, as a city, start footing the bill and eating what we've done and taking accountability. And so the next leader has to come into that and taking ownership. No, I did not make this mess, but here I am to be a part of fixing and cleaning it up and understanding what the city has to do. So that's just two things from a public sector, from a mental health standpoint.
When I gotta ask you this question. And you
and as you ask that question, Uncle Michon, then I also want to address this right here from Richard Whitlock. I want somebody to
I started with Richard wrote. I'm glad you're going to bring that up. I'm glad
when we look at this, African Americans, Republicans, or ADS, melanated conservatives are a socio-political demographic in America. Now, for the listening audience, socio-political, by definition, combining social and political factors. When you think about this, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Anybody take that.
Well, I'm gonna let Hall handle this work. I want to hear it from his perspective before I get it. Go ahead, Hall. Let me see how you gonna handle this question right here. I'm putting you on your spot. Okay, how you gonna handle this question right here, bro?
The question or the statement is not a question.
The statement.
How you gonna handle that statement, brother?
How you gonna handle that statement?
Well, to Brother Whitlock again, it's a mindset, as you spoke to me, Sean, earlier when I first came onto the show. It's a mindset because we actually are conservative, but we keep using these phrases, right? These
layers of divisiveness.
Thank you. These layers of as to why we don't need to the restoration. Because I'm running on restoration. As to why we don't need to be who we are, and more people line up with a conservative mindset anyway, in their values, their ways, and how they live. But we keep continuing to try to find a way not to, out of the fear of, because we're looking for certain reasons as to why, and we keep nitpicking while continuing to remain in the same condition, the same predicament, claiming no one wants to help because they don't understand where we come from or where we live. But the ones who do, we still don't accept the help. So I think it's just, as Joseph said, it's just more layers that we keep putting on.
It's layers of separation.
All right.
We start out as humans, and every layer that we've added was humans, and then we added male and female. That was a layer of separation, and then it's what, religion, and that's another layer of separation, and all the denominations, and then the political parties. It's another. They're all layers of separation. And there's a lot of us, through everything that you talked about, Brother Hall, the pandemic, cell phones, and everything else that we got to deal with, that all help to perpetuate these layers of separation. Now I know you got to go here shortly. I wanted to know, there was one last question real quick before, and then Michon has a question as well. But vax mandate, what do you think?
No, I am not for the vaccine mandate. My family and I did not get the vaccine. Our bodies, our immune system, no, it's not to be forced by the government to put something into my body and on my body. So that's why I think the difference, if you really break down with abortion based on a child, right, and this act of that to adults of what is taking place, of understanding what comes from action, the result of, and using the clinic as a way of saying, because I work with Sisters for Life. Angela Mentor's like a mother to me. Went to school with her son, both her sons, and she had 2 abortions. And then she realized what she was doing because her father stepped in. And so now she fights and advocates for it. So I work going along with her to FW and so in witnessing this and really understanding this breakdown coming from mothers and coming from women who are fighting against. But okay, let me get back to the vaccine mandate. Anyway, no, I'm not for the vaccine mandate. I actually had to do 2 forms, 2 interviews outside because it was a vaccinated building. Myself and Rob Stark Reichman could not enter into the building, so they had to, as they said, accommodate us. And one, we had to stand in an alley outside in the heat, sweating. And the other, they made a stage up for us to be able, and the comment they made was we were not able to attend the forum at the time, but they will be on at a later time. When in fact we were there, we couldn't come in because of this mandate over the building that they have in place, continuing to, to create that separation to keep us out.
Wow. Got you, Michon. You had something before he left.
I'm not making a question. I'm making a statement to Richard's comments. And the reason why I wanted you to go first, because you're asking and you're seeking, and you're looking, and everybody on here, you're saying that you want to represent yourself as a mayor, and you look like myself. Okay, so I'm always concerned about anybody who look like me and how they represent themselves in the dominant European culture. So Richard asked a very specific question. And I like that Richard asked that question because the question is a most powerful question. And I know why Richard asked that question, okay? And you need to know this. And you need to understand, okay? When someone asks a question like this, as a brother, as us, operating in the dominant European environment, you got to respond like this. Let me explain to you when somebody asks me a question like that. The word is a common denominator. Our common denominator is we are humanity. I'm a man first. I ain't an African American. I'm not a black. I ain't none of that. Okay. When I walk through the door, my political views is I'm trying to line them up for conservative views that are going to work for me. Conservative is about, bottom line, self-preservation. I'm seeking the same preservation that you seeking, sir, or ma'am, or whoever. I care about my family. I care about my future. I care about what's going ahead. And I care about those things that matter. Now, if you're going to stand in the way of me trying to get what I'm going to do because you want to box me in to being black, African-American, all that, and my humanity is the same as your humanity, that's what I got a problem with, okay? See, we can't allow ourselves to get caught up in these little layers and everything. When someone asks you a question, you got to go to the common denominator. My humanity and your humanity are equally the same, and I seek the same thing that you deserve and that I want. My color, all that don't have a doggone thing to do with it. Okay.
Well, that was an awful lot for that little statement, but that's not what I got out of that. But that's not what I got out of that statement.
That's
what it sounds like Mr. Whitlock is saying to me is that as a group of people, we're inside American politics, and if we come together as a group of people, then we can sway those politics in whatever direction we want to, if we have a common goal out there. And so there's two different things happening there as a people, right? If we have a common goal, and then and I'm gonna paraphrase Dr. King here a little bit. He said, if we look at someone not for the color of their skin, but for the content of their politics, right, then we can make a move and go someplace. And so what I think Mr. Whitlock is saying, at least to me, is that whether you're conservative, Republican, whatever it is, we're not moving inside the politics as a group of people. And that's, at least that's what I took out of it.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's multiple, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Marcus. It's what you said, and it's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, okay, you have to be very careful. And I'm glad. I thank you, Richard, for saying that. We need to know how to answer questions like that straight up, immediately. You got to set the tone so people know who you are, and immediately. So I'm going to ask you this question before you get off. Has the Republican Party put any money behind your campaign?
The Republican Party in Louisville, the local party, no, they have not backed any candidate in the primary.
And they never do. They don't get involved in primaries. If Chartrell was to win the primary, that's when the parties kick in. Same thing with the Democrats.
So real quick, here's a question, and I think this is important because, again, one thing that has always been said about the Republican Party is their inability to relate to all people, especially the people and you know, I don't know how to say it any other way, but the people closer to the bottom, or the people in more disparaged neighborhoods, and I would even beg to say more disparaged mindsets. How does this help the hood, coming from Fonz Brown out there on social media? How does you becoming mayor help the hood?
Is this I see another comment. Is he referring? It says, is this the guy that came late and left early than everybody? Is he talking about from 4th Street?
He was. I think it was asking, were you the guy from Pizza Bar? And then he said just the guy that came late and left earlier than everybody. I think he's trying to throw a little dig at you there. But
mindset also of understanding running for mayor, right? This isn't a small thing. This isn't something we're accustomed to. You know, this is, you have meetings, you have forums, you have things you have to do. You're planning. You're constantly working. So how does this help the hood? You just made the perfect point, Joseph. That's where I come from. The relatability, understanding. I'm still there. You can ask those that's in the hood, how am I still helping and serving, not simply from the capacity of giving handouts, but shifting mindsets and habits and traits, right? As I open up the doors at the church that I'm a minister at to have these real conversations, King Table Talks at the end of every month. How I'm working, still talking to drug dealers and gang members, current and former. The youth writing me, talking about Trail, what you're doing, we're ready, we're behind you, we're with you. See, this age group of voters, and even the younger generation as well, but from 18 to about 45, they rocking with me real tough, real heavy. This generation I'm a part of are believing. They understand the time in which we're in and how we can't keep doing the same thing. And they're ready for red wave as well. They're not just with the go along, get along, but there's few people, as always, that yell the loudest, that make it seem like everybody's in agreement with what others are talking about. And that's not the case. So how does this help the hood? You change the hood by showing how you're able to return and reinvest, able to restore, and by doing something we've never seen to inspire and empower people to understand the value and appreciation of their work and their talent and their skills and their gifts.
And I think
that's how this helps the hood.
Yeah.
And I think that's that Fonz Brown is from the Crown Vic Boys, and you know, his homie was speaking at the time, and you had to leave from the pizza bar, and so I think that's what he's referring to, and feeling a certain type of way because I'm not sure. Maybe it wasn't. He says no, so maybe that wasn't from Crown Vic Boys.
I reached out to Fonz when he. Yeah. I reached out to Fonz just before he was going out the door. And I told the brother to tune in to our show and everything. And
And
I'm glad to see.
don't know everybody.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say is my man's not omnipresent. Okay. He can't be everywhere all the time. You
One
know,
man.
we still got questions about that omnipresent ability anyway. So, yeah, he can't be everywhere.
Before I know you, I want to throw a word out here for you so you can understand something, man. You know, and I'm a clown a little bit, so you'll know. You know, when I say I've been part of the Conservative Party for a while, but I've been in there a while, and I've been invited to a whole lot of stuff. Okay, I even met with you know, Dr. Was the neurosurgeon, okay, who was elected by Trump. Okay, I had the opportunity to come to a function, and I've been in the company of Candace Owens and everything, and I actually been in the company of a couple of it. And with Fawn's question he asked you is very relevant. Okay, and I'm glad that he asked, well, how did that help the hood? I'm going to tell you a little. What happened is that I happened to be in the same room with the neurosurgeon's wife. Okay, and I, you know, I went and asked her a specific question about how she felt about. Yeah, Dr. Carson's wife. Okay, her name is Candy. Okay, her name is Candy. So this is a private viewing. You don't go there unless somebody invites you there. Okay, so I'm in a private viewing with Dr. Carson and his wife. Okay, so I walk up, you know, because I'm the hood. You talking about I'm hood. I'm like Fonz. I'm the hood. All right. I just happen because I know people to get inside to be at a private viewing with it. So, you know, Dr. Carson off to the side doing what he do. So I go over there, you know, you know what I'm doing, Marcus. I'm doing the infiltrating. I'm trying to find out what's going on. So I go over to Miss Carson, okay, and ask Miss Carson, so Miss Carson, you know, what's your take on Selma? Because at the time, Selma's anniversary was coming along and everything, and we were about to do an event that weekend on Selma. And let me tell you, this is hood conversation. This what made me realize what they call Europeans or Negro-peans, okay? We got a whole lot of Negro-peans trying to go in both parties, trying to represent something. You either hood from us and you know our issues or you don't. You know, Candy Carson had no clue about the Selma conversation. I said, ma'am, I said, we get ready to celebrate the history of Selma history, and you don't know anything about it. And she says to me, well, I do a lot of reading and I got time and this and that. My point is this here. With Fonz asked, culturally, we cannot miss that we still are connected to us and we must know what's going on. Everybody that look like us don't mean they us or they for us.
Well,
and let me say this. You know, I'll say this. We have voted in the 95 percentile for over 50 plus years Democrat. Okay, and we do it just based on what the other person next to us, our mamas and all that stuff have done and told us, you know, we do it not based on facts. We don't do it based on research. We do it based on emotion. You know, when you sit there and you say stuff like, you know, I mean, again, I'm seeing a lot of emotion when I'm looking in the comments here, right?
And
so,
Joe, I think
when you want to talk about being sick of the same song and dance from people in politics, guess what? Stop doing the same thing that has been done for over 50 plus years in politics.
Exactly.
The definition, layman's definition of insanity is to continually do the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Stop doing
Joe,
the same thing. Vote different. Just try it. Just try it out one time.
As a general statement, though, you make a blanket statement without any real context in that, because Michonne and I have sat down in the room with the chairman of the Republican Party talking about this very thing. And their comment was, we're not concerned about them because they don't vote. See, politics is the only sport that is not a spectator sport. See, when you go to basketball games, you have to sit on the sideline. You get to participate, but you'll call and raise 9 kinds of saying about this or that happening on the court when you don't get to participate. This is the only sport in America where you get to participate. And when you talk about the 95 percentile that vote, it's only those that vote, right? Because Thomas Jefferson told us that the government is not run by the majority, it's run by the majority who participate, and only by the majority who participate. So what we have to do, whether you vote Republican or Democrat, is you have to be in the game. And if you're not in the game, then don't complain. Then don't complain about the outcome. Now, we may do the same thing, but we're not even in the game. We have to get in the game to be able to complain about it. So those people that want to see change in the hood, take part, register to vote, whether it's Democrat or Republican. Get involved in the game, and then talk about what's not changed.
Powerful, Brother Mark. Powerful statement. Well, gentlemen, I do have to be ready.
You know what? You know where Marcus can say that statement?
Hey, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let my brother on exit him on out. Brother Hall, we appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by. Love you, brother. You got my vote. Looks like from the tipping point, you got my brother John's vote as well. So you know, we'll see you tonight.
Thank you. See you tonight. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, brothers. Marcus.
Thank you. Absolutely enjoyed it. Yes, sir.
Hey, good job, man. And hey, Marcus, I just want to, if I can, I want to piggyback on what Marcus said. The only reason, and brother Marcus, thanks for you chimed in very good, right on time. The only reason that Marcus and I, and he's right, we sat down with the Republican Party. It was a very educational meeting, wasn't it, Marcus? I mean, we came in there, and I got to clown a little bit. What did they say immediately before we sat down, Mark? I'm gonna let you say it. What did they say immediately before when we sat down? Remember what he said to me?
Oh yeah, he wanted to know how many people we had to bring along as a block of votes.
No. He said he was told, don't let them talk about reparation with you.
Remember remember that was with the representative in Frankfurt. I'm talking about the party chairman.
Party chairman. Yeah. Well, that's right. We actually met with both of them, right? Exactly. But the party chairman, party chairman. But the representative that told us when we met with him, remember that was a very, very funny. He gonna say to us, well, you can meet with them, but don't let them guide you talking about reparation. And what did we tell him? We ain't here to talk about no reparation. Yeah, we're not in here for that, okay? We came here to find out what it is. How can we get y'all interested in us? And they made it very clear to us. We came out of that meeting very clear that the Republican Party would only care about us when we got in the game.
That's absolutely right.
And I'm in total agreement with that, you know. And when we think about this statement right here that Ali Majub said. I am so happy to see great African Americans are standing for themselves and taking dominion over their lives as American. Boy, oh boy, let me just say, there are many Americans out there, European, foreign, and everyone else, that are waiting for us to stand up and do our thug thizzle. You see what I'm saying? Like we have to stop playing as a people. If you want respect, you take respect. You show and prove. That's how you get respect. You show and prove. How you get respect. But if every time somebody's pulling up to the light, they gotta hear the worst of the worst music because you have no couth about yourself and you want to sit there and play shoot 'em up, bang bang, fuck, pussy, dick, this, that, and the other. And people got to pull up to your car and listen to that. Or the other day, I'm sitting there, motorcyclists out there. It's us. And they got, I didn't even know some of the real versions of these songs. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hearing words to the songs, and I'm like, damn, I didn't know I didn't know Chris Brown said all that in that song. And it's like, you got kids in the vehicle ahead. We got a kid in our vehicle. Now we got to roll the windows up and this, that, and the other, so we don't have to sit here and listen to this garbage. Have some couth about yourself. Grow the fuck up. Get mature. And get out here and do things that make sense, that are going to push your community forward. Stop sitting around and just being a louse.
Amen.
what's important about this statement right here. I mean, I love my
Yes.
people to death, and I want to see us grow. I want to see us grow and mature within society, because when we're
Yes.
good, society's better. I promise you.
That's
that.
why we make that statement, and I'm unapologetically make this statement. What is right for us? When I say what is right for us, I'm not saying that I don't care about nobody else. I want to set the standard is we have to improve our standards, okay? And lifting our stuff up. Let's focus on what is right for us. When we focus on what is right for us, guess what? You're going to have statements like that from a whole lot of people. They're going to say, finally, they doing things that's right for them. And we push everybody else to do right because we're doing right, okay? I like this statement right behind Marcus. What is right for us? We must learn how to unlearn that has not been working. We must learn how to unlearn. You can't keep doing the same thing. Oh, if you don't like what the Democratic Party doing, try something else. Try something else. But to come back to the table again and again and again, oh, the Democratic Party ain't done this. Oh, and the Republican. No.
I mean, I'm personally
something
voting
else.
across party lines. Carl Price has my vote for county attorney. It's time for Michael Connell to go. Chartrell Hall has my vote for mayor. This is just something where when you really look at it, folks, it's not about just voting party line per se. Look at what people offer and line that up with what you want in your life, your family's life. If you better yourself, guess what? You better the people around you.
Yeah.
So again,
I guess
that's what this is all about. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, a challenge is, I totally agree with what everyone's saying. The challenge is not everyone agrees on what's right for us, because if you got 95% of people voting for one party, they're saying we want what that party is offering, or they're not aware of what that party is offering. Because, I mean, here in Louisville, there hasn't been a Republican mayor or city councilman, alderman, for 80 years. So obviously the people are saying we want what we're getting. And, what are you going to do about that? If people are voting for what they want and they're getting what they want.
It's a matter of teaching people exactly how to vote. They don't know what they're doing. Okay, because those same people that are voting are the same ones that complain about the bullshit that's going on. Okay, so how can you vote this way and then complain about the stuff that's going on? It doesn't make any sense. That lets you know that there is an education issue.
Okay.
But I also think there is not just education issue. You see, when you have a 20% turnout, those are 20% people that participated that get to decide what happens. So those other people that complain, that didn't participate. And I think when you look at voter turnout, you find that it's historically low, unless there's a hot issue, and then it may creep a little bit. But we allow 10% of the people to decide who our leaders are. And then how do we hold them accountable if the other 90% didn't vote? So that 95 percentile that you say they're voting a certain way, only 10% of those people are actually voting. And so I think
So just to say it clearly, you're talking about if there's 14 million Americans, 10% or 14 million Black Americans, 10% of them actually vote, is what you're saying?
Well, if you look at the voter turnout, I'm saying 10% of that number vote, and then 95% of that number.
95% of that 10%
right
is actually making the decision
for the rest of us,
or what have you. Okay.
That's right. And if we don't participate in I'm talking about now, and I say this, and I said I wasn't going to get into things like Michonne, but when every one of my children turned 18, I took them to the clerk's office. I made them register to vote, and I took them to the first two elections to ensure that they voted. And now they vote every time. Yeah. Because it's that important to me.
And today in Kentucky, Marcus is totally right. Here's the numbers, which is pretty phenomenal. So out of 100 Americans, this is all ethnicities, 30 of those Americans who are eligible to vote, which means you're over 18 and you do not have a felony, 30% are not even registered. So that takes us from 100 people down to 70%. Now, a presidential election, 2020, 24, there's about a 50% turnout. Well, that's not 50% of the 100, it's 50% of those registered. So that's down to 35%. And then in a congressional year like this, in the general election, it's about a 40% turnout. So that's 40 of 70, that's 28%. Now in the primary today in Kentucky, we're lucky to get a 12 to 15% turnout. This is statewide. So that's the 12 to 15% of the 70%. So do the math. Even if we use 10%, that would be only 7% of the people. So candidate A gets 4%, candidate B gets 3%, that's a 7%, and candidate A wins. So as Marcus is saying, it's very few people that decide these elections. And, and it's really, really sad because we don't take our citizenship very seriously. Chuck's in Iraq, they were threatened to be killed with a purple thing, and they had a 95% turnout. And so, and we were at the pizza bar, last Thursday. We're going to be there tonight. We want to welcome people. Come on out to the pizza bar at 4th Street Live. We have a free pizza party and drinks, and we're bringing
and you won't get killed.
Democrats, Republicans, Independents. But guess what? So they hosted the event for us. And I asked all the people, the manager, and they said, "What are y'all doing?" Well, we're having a candidates forum. He said, "Well, all of them, none of them knew the election was on Tuesday, so they didn't even know that. They didn't even know the event that they were hosting at their place." And he said, "Well, I didn't know there was an election." I said, "Yeah, dude, you need to get out there and vote on Tuesday."
Junior Bridgman, call your management. Tighten them up. Gotta get them people tightened up. All right.
Hey, fellas. Hey, fellas. I want to just go ahead and say to you all, man, I appreciate this show. I appreciate Truth Be Told show. I know we coming to the hour there that y'all probably gonna go strong. I like us to go strong, but not long and everything. And I just want to say to all of you brothers that's on the line right here, there would not be no show, okay, if it wasn't for all of us participate. And I want to tell you publicly, and not make this at Peter Hayes, okay, my brother, what we put together in front of that media, okay, yesterday, okay, I could not have ever imagined, couldn't imagine not have done that with you, okay. What we did in front of the media, brother, I'm gonna let Peter carry on and go on because I'm going to have to go on. What we did in front of that media and what they got from us, okay, and what we told them was off the hook, okay. It was so strong and everything that when I stepped to that podium and I said what I said, I know it must have been something because Peter, y'all clapped. Everybody clapped. Everybody clapped and said, "Holy smack!" Okay, we punched the media in their face, okay. And so Peter, I just want to publicly acknowledge in front of my brothers here, brother. Thank you for at the last minute putting that together. It was the best work that I've done so far happened yesterday. And with that being said, brothers, I love y'all, man. Truth be told, make America greater than it's ever been. We got to always work on what is right for us. Joe, love you. Okay, we're gonna always lift the standard up. And what happened on our show, I don't have to be on everybody else's show, but what happened on our show, we show love, we show some respect, we show some time. We love on one another. Okay, I'm gonna put that in. We love on one another. We don't mistreat. We don't disrespect. We love on people when they come on our show.
You should do like what was that movie back in the day? Where he had love on one hand and fight on the other. That's That's what he been doing all show. On this show, we love, and then on other shows, I don't know about them other shows. You've been throwing jabs all day. Look, bro, I love you too.
I love you, man. Y'all take care.
And you got on my damn nerves Saturday. That is the absolute truth. And I encourage you to go back and sit down and listen to the whole show. Because I think that if you actually go back, sit down, and listen to the whole show, then you would actually love all of it. Because you had to go and you had to bounce, and I know you didn't go back and listen to after you left. You just went in and started yelling, screaming, and ranting. But with that being said, bro, love you, and we'll catch you next week, of course, right here on the Truth Be Told show.
Peace out,
and all right. So, yeah. All right. So, with that being said, then, I do want to play a couple commercials real quick, and then we'll come back and, if anybody has any last words or topics they want to jump on, we'll do that. But right now, let's go ahead and be right back here with the Truth Be Told show.
Thank you, Truth Be Told, for allowing God's Lives Matter to be a sponsor. Wearable products, as the purple t-shirt, is bearing witness. Every life created by God has infinite value. Visit God'sLivesMatter.com.
I'm Carl Price. For over 25 years, I fought for justice in courtrooms just like this. And I know the difference between a bad person and a good kid in trouble. Louisville is where I was born. And as Jefferson County attorney, I will work to keep Louisville a safe place to raise your family and grow your business. I'm Carl Price, and I believe in justice for all. On May 17th, in the Democratic primary election, I humbly request your vote.
This ad is paid for by Carl Price for County Attorney.
All right. Let's see, Peter, you've got this Louisville election night. We're talking local over in Louisville, Kentucky. You've got food and music provided, plus a cash bar. Folks, they're going to be giving away cash. So, but yeah, so
Joe, make sure you go to the bank and get that cash. You're providing the cash, right?
I sure won't. I absolutely sure won't. So Pizza Bar, 4th Street Live, that is today at 6 p.m. All right, at Pizza Bar, 4th Street Live. You can register online at eventsmarter.com, and our contact information, that's Peter Hayes there, 502-419-4539. Everybody from Somalia and Nigeria, make sure you call Peter Hayes today, 502-419-4539. He is a gazillionaire, so reach out to him at any point. He can help you with the water problems and everything. Just give him a holler. With that being said, how are you guys feeling after hearing Chartrell come on the show and speak?
Well,
Marcus,
I like what he had to say. As far as the community goes and how you approach the community, I think that it is an internal problem, and until we look internally first and figure out what we need to do to fix that problem, then it doesn't really matter what the politicians and what programs and anything else they put in place. And so I think he's right on track with that. I'm hesitant to say that it's conservative or it's liberal. People take things in terms and they twist them and change the narrative on them so that they become what they want them to. Yeah. And so we talk about history and we look at those
Like
things
they're
that
making
happen
their
in
own
history.
Bible or something.
Right. Right. And so I think it's you have to, we talk about critical thinking, but we don't ever really say why that is. And critically thinking about something, when I take two people and they tell me what it is they plan to do, then I have to ask additional questions, determine whether that's right for me or not, and then follow up with them in the next cycle if they didn't deliver what they said. And so what we do is it sounds good, and then we don't hold them accountable to what they say, and then we vote for them again. And so that's the insanity that you're talking about, is that, dude, I voted for you once, Mr. Hall, and you didn't deliver for me. Now, why should I vote for you again? And that's with anybody, not just him. I don't live in Louisville, but if I did, I'd vote for him because I like what he had to say, regardless of his party.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important. It's important when we start talking about that. Peter, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree totally with Marcus. I've been involved in politics for 40 years here in America and throughout actually, I even worked on some campaigns in Israel and Kenya, believe it or not. So international politics. And, it's an interesting science. I mean, you go to college for political science because there is a science to it. But, people kind of hear what they want to hear, and the politicians know that, just like preachers or any speaker, you speak to your audience, you kind of tell them what you think is going to relate to. And so, but as Marcus said, we don't usually hold our elected officials accountable. For instance, some people know I'm the only person in history of Louisville to run for mayor as both a Republican and a Democrat. And when I ran as a Democrat,
and he did it at the same time, folks.
No, different years. But when I ran as a Democrat for the alderman and mayor, I ran against Jerry Abramson, who's very famous. The mayor for life, was 20 years. And when I did my research with the police statistics, every single year and every quarter, crime went up. Every category went up for 20 years. And I also researched that Louisville lost jobs, just all jobs. We lost population. So if you were to judge someone, especially a mayor, you would say, well, you lost population. That means people moved out of Louisville. Crime went through the roof, not just 1 year, but 20 years in a row. And it was 48 quarters, and you lost jobs. You would think that would be a failing grade. I mean, if I was mayor and said, hey, better days with Peter Hayes, while you were mayor, you lost jobs, you lost population, people are fleeing like rats on the Titanic, and crime. And so when I laid this out to the community, here's the collusion for the media. So the mayor's spokesman said, well, Peter Hayes is misleading the people. And guess what they pointed? So in the 48 quarters, one category like car break-ins went down 1 quarter, not for the whole year. So what I pretty much said was 99.9% true, but their spin was that Peter Hayes is lying. And he pointed to that 1 quarter of 1 year, not murders didn't go down, but, car thefts. I think it was car, break-ins. And the media backed them up with that. And, because they were behind Jerry Abramson and this idea that the media is the fourth estate. They're supposed to be, but they're part of the establishment, the media, the political world, the academic world. And, they're all getting paid big money. And as Fawn said, how's it helping the neighborhood, the grassroots? Well, it's getting worse and worse and worse. Louisville, we had 2020, we're breaking the record for murders every year. 2020, 173 murders. And then last year we had 188 murders. We broke another record.
I'd be surprised if you find out one day that, it was the media. Every now and then when it ain't no news, they just run out there and shoot somebody and create some news.
Well,
and Joe and Marcus, we're on track to do 200 murders in Louisville. And I just looked online. There was a new study. Louisville now is in the top 10 of murders. So intelligence would say, well, And it is the people, it's not the government, but there are solutions because there's some, common
Well,
sense
well, I think,
solutions to fighting crime and violence.
well, I
Lock
think,
criminals up.
well, yeah, but I think Mayor Giuliani tried some of those things in New York, and he did bring those numbers down, but he also took away some civil liberties and some other things along the way. I do believe that there are things that we can do, but see, the question that I always ask is, what is it going on in our community that disrespect or perceived disrespect ends up with someone pulling a gun on someone else and shooting them over disrespect or perceived disrespect? And so until we can figure out what it is that's creating that, there's unless you're going to put a policeman on every block, unless you're going to confiscate every single weapon, there's no way to fix that because that's internal. So we have to determine what it is that creates that disrespect that causes another person to want to take another person's life. And until we do that, you can throw money, you can throw whatever you want to at it, and that's not going to change the problem. Absolutely. And so for me, when I ask that, I think it's got to do with how we perceive ourselves, and meaning selves, is that our self-esteem is so low that the only thing we have left is what respect we think we have until someone steps in the way of that. And that's where I think the solving the problem starts with is figuring out how we do that in our community.
And that's a cultural thing, and culture is very hard to change. I mean, politics with this party, but culture, whether it's a good culture or bad, especially a bad culture, is very, very difficult. Mindset.
Well, right. So we talk about so what we're talking about is cultural conditioning, right? And so I don't live in a big city, and so I don't see it on that scale. But my sister and her children grew up in Atlanta with my mother, and I see the same things that I see happening in the city, in the neighborhoods in Atlanta, I see happening in the neighborhoods in Elizabethtown. And so the media does have a lot to do with that, because otherwise the people that live in the small neighborhoods in Elizabethtown, I don't know how they would have that same mentality as somebody that would be growing up in a major city, in a major urban area like Louisville or the West End, but they do. Right now, I think the media has a part to do with that. And the thing that Joe talks about with putting up to the stoplight and hearing the music, we don't talk about that. We get chastised for saying the N-word, and then we listen to it everywhere else. I watched Bel Air the other day, and I wasn't surprised that it was on there, but it was much different from the Fresh Prince, right?
Yeah.
And so on one hand, we say do one thing, and on the other hand, we do something completely different. And so we perpetuate that because we watch it. If we didn't watch it, they wouldn't put it on. And to Joe's point, right? If we didn't support those things, they would do something different.
Yeah.
Could you call that
buy the albums? If we didn't buy the music, if we didn't watch the movies, you don't see any of us protesting in the high crime areas when it's black on black. You don't see us doing that. We're not protesting. So it's like, okay, does crime matter? Does murder matter outside of another race against us? And apparently it doesn't. So if you look at people looking from the outside in, how serious are they going to take you when you're not even taking yourself serious, when you're not taking your own community serious? The music that's put out there. And don't get me wrong, that music has been infiltrated into European society just the same.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, at this point, if it wasn't for the Europeans purchasing stuff or people outside of our race purchasing stuff, these guys would not be as wealthy as they are. All right. Yeah. They're making buku dollars, and it ain't all coming from us. It's
Oh,
a lot of it
yeah.
coming outside of our community.
Now, I
So,
agree.
but they like hearing all that. And then when they a celebrity or somebody jumps up and says the N-word because they're reciting a song or whatever, this,
Right.
that, and the other, and then we chastise them. But you don't
Right.
chastise yourself and say, well, I can say it because what? You a
Right.
nigga?
That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. And I point to this often. You remember when Michael Jackson, I can't remember if it was Black or White or whichever song it was, but in that song, he said the word kike. And the Jewish community, they
Yeah.
right. So the just the implication of that, and then at the same time, those same people that lit him up and made him take that out endorse us saying that about us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see, so
yeah.
When we talk about stuff like that, excuse me, there's some practicality to it, and you have to ask yourself why. Right? The ghettos, when they first were formed, were full of Jewish people, but like most people that are some type of European, within a couple of generations, they were able to change their name and they blended right into the whiteness. And so,
well, I mean, and at the same time, I think it's an understanding that was just a stepping stone.
Absolutely.
They didn't adapt to it, look at it, and say, I'm cool with being around here. Nah, they said, this is some bullshit, and as soon as I get my first chance, I'm getting the hell up out of here. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and the Jewish community stresses education excellence. They're probably the most educated ethnic group in the world. So, they may, people come and they live in some, difficult situations, but pretty much most immigrant groups or any group, tries to climb up that ladder. But I think the problem that I see, traveling all over America, every city's very similar. It's like, I don't, and we do have to differentiate. There's about 1/3 of African Americans, descended from slaves, that are very successful. The working class is about 1/3, 40%. The problem is the underclass, which is in every society, is very large, 30-40%. And that is just something, that's what we're talking about, the underclass. That's 30 or 40%, where in other community it's 5 or 10%.
Well, but I think too, Peter, is we also have to take a hard look at now as a society and as a people, right? We've only been out of slavery 150 years. So this community is very young. When you talk about those other communities that have thousands of years of cultural backing that they have to work with. And so while it seems like it's a dire situation, we've only been a community, and I talk about the descendants of American slaves have only been in a community as a ethnic group for about a little bit over 150 years. So we've come a long way in 150 years, and we got a long way to go. But when you compare us, and Ms. Shorn does this win, place, and show, but when you compare our civilization to other civilizations that have been around for hundreds, in some cases thousands of years, I think we've made pretty good ground in that little bit of time. Now, what we can't do is we can't rest on our laurels and say we've come a long way in 150 years, because we've got a long way to go. But it begins with having a purpose. And when I talk with my European friends and we have conversations, and they'll say, I'm from Italy, or my family comes from Ireland. What I tell them is that my family goes back to Auburn, Kentucky, where my great grandmother was listed as a slave, and that's as far back as excuse me, that's as far back as my history goes. Yeah. And so I think some of that is in being proud that our ancestors helped build this country. And so when I'm having my conversation with my European friends, and we get to talking about history and where we come from, mine starts in Auburn, Kentucky, as far back as I can tell, in 1878. Right? And that's the recorded part of it. So I think some of that self-worth and some of how we do that is that we have to turn into that. You see, people say, I'm not going to call myself a slave, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, my ancestors made this country what it is today. We were the ones, or my ancestors were the ones that slaved and made this country great. Thomas Jefferson, and I keep saying Thomas Jefferson, but if you read any of his Federalist Papers or his notes on Virginia, he'll tell you that they knew slavery was wrong, but they could not have built this country without it. And so they made a conscious decision to maintain slavery in order to make this country what it is today. And that's the kind of conversation you got to have with those with the European when they say that I'm from Ireland or I'm from so-and-so and my family was this and my family was that. And I think some of those types of things we have to be willing to engage and not shy away from. And I think some of that's a pretty damn good thing to say when I'm talking amongst my friends, to say, oh, wait a minute, dude. Let me tell you how America came to be what it is. And that's some respect.
Yeah.
And I get on a tirade, so I'm gonna back off of that. But
no, I think that's a good point, Marcus, because if you have some, like, why is the self-esteem so low in the community? That's a very good point. And it's when you have a low self-esteem, anybody, you can do some stuff that are harmful to yourself.
And you spend time trying to overcompensate for that low self-esteem. You don't want to walk out there and show everybody your low self-esteem. No, you put up a front in order to make it seem like you don't have low self-esteem. Therefore, in culturally, we've understood that, it's you gotta be hood. It's good to be hood. And it's this bravado that we put out out here to say, it is a lot of work trying to keep up with that. And then after a while, it just becomes you. And then that's what you do. And so now when you're challenged on that, you go and do stupid things in order to mitigate that challenge. Right. So you ain't hood. Yes, I am. Watch me do this. Pow, pow, pow. You know what I mean? I mean, it's stupid. It don't happen just like that. But I'm telling you, sitting in the midst of that, being in the midst of that, these things happen, and this is how it goes. And this is the reality: is that people are out here overcompensating for their lack, for their sad feelings of not feeling that great about themselves, because we have an American society that has helped to put people down, dumb people down, and make them feel other than or less than, and people are out here overcompensating for that. So it's interesting when you think about that.
And Marcus makes and both of you make a good point. As as one of my titles appointed by the United Nations as the global spokesman for all white people. So, this is real talk because, I hear from a lot of different sides. My wife's from Japan. She works with a lot of ethnic people at her plant from all over Africa. And there's a lot of disrespect for African Americans, not because of their color, of their hue of their skin, but because of some of the traits that they see. And, people are like, well, shucks, if they won't, they don't, care about black on black crime or killing in a neighborhood, why should we? And that you hear that a lot. And it's like, they won't talk to you all about it, but it's like, what they see is, dirty neighborhood, trash, the level of disrespect. And, obviously they're not like me, who's in the community and knows a lot of good people, hardworking people, because
they see what the media shows.
Absolutely.
and that's what they believe. I say,
and the media, but also the music culture and BT and and that is the media as well. But it's not just the news. I guess not just the news media, but the culture. Is not.
I mean, BET. I think in this day and age, BET is about as relevant as a pencil. They, in this day and age, they're not relevant much at all. But it is the music culture that people see. Personally, I haven't watched a video station. I don't even know if they still show videos on TV or not.
Right.
But the music is it. The music is what is helping people. Because a person in another country that don't get to express themselves much because, you know, their parents are religious and they growing up in this and they got to go and pray 5 times a day or whatever the case, you know, when they want to express themselves, they go cut on some shoot 'em up, bang, bang. And, you know, they sitting in a room somewhere by themselves and, you know, running the risk of getting caught by their parents and getting stoned. And they, you know, this is how they get to feel hood, hard.
Yeah,
you know,
you want to hear a funny story? So Minister Gerald Muhammad with Nation of Islam, we went to Korea together and a group from Kentucky for International Peace Conference. And so we flew into Seoul and, you know, and Marcus and Joe, you know, would fly. That's a 14-hour flight. So we're all tired. We checked into the hotel and Gerald wanted some, you know, I've been to Korea a couple of times to speak a very little Korean. So he said, hey, Peter, I want to go get some orange juice. So we went down the hotel and across to a little convenience store. And Gerald was asking, I want some orange juice. And the Korean guy, what? He couldn't understand him. And then, but the guy at the same time had some rap music on and knew every lyric of some gangster rap. And finally, I told the guy, hey, we just want some orange juice. So his English, he very, very bad. But by golly, he was quoting every single word of a Jay-Z song. And Gerald picked that up and he spoke about that quite often. That's the power of our culture and music around the world. And here's the reason, I think I mentioned the other show, people around the world are disliking Americans more and more, not because of our democracy or constitutional republic, but it's our polluted culture. And I told the story about a Washington Times reporter was in England and the imam was very radical, one of these jihadists who publicly says he supports, bombings and killing, jihadists killing people and suicide bombers. And he was interviewing him and the imam, the English imam, took him down to the basement of the mosque. And he said, you know why? He said, because he asked him, are you going to always
say he murdered him down there?
Well, no, he didn't do that, but he asked them, he told them, we are going to continue fighting America to the death, and we will kill every American that we can. And the reporter asked, well, why? And, this Washington Times, this was when George Bush was the president. Remember, he used to say, well, they don't like us for our democracy and freedom. No, this radical imam said, America is no longer a godly nation. We used to support America, the ideals, Dr. King, and the ideals of America, democracy, constitutional republic. But America, because of your culture, is no longer a godly nation. Now you can debate with him, but he was being real. He said
I would have asked him, like, what are you gonna do when all the Americans are dead? Like, you won't have anything else to do. Like, what are you gonna do? Just sit down and look at the sun? I mean,
well, his point though, it's impacting their young people negatively because they're listening to our garbage movie, and they're starting to have the social problems that we have: the crime, the violence, the family breakdown. And
I cannot find a stone big enough to throw at my child because I do not want them to listen to this music. I cannot find a stone big enough to beat them with, and they still be alive.
So the problem then, what it sounds like is that as the world has gotten smaller, right? Because all those problems that they talk about always existed. They just didn't have means to see them. And because the world has gotten smaller, America hasn't really changed any. They just see it much more instantaneously
for what it is.
Yeah. And so I don't think that
yeah, but I think when you say look at TV shows and culture, I mean, we didn't allow the garbage we see on today. It happened.
You're absolutely right. It's gotten worse progressively. The FCC, it's like every other year, they allow a new word in media. So bitch is now allowed on TV. Can you imagine that? The word bitch is allowed on TV. Like, it's okay. And you could be sitting there with your kid watching a show, and you got to help them understand the definition of a female dog and this woman that's acting out of sorts that got called a bitch. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so
Absolutely.
ridiculous now.
Well,
And
and
so I think-
cable, you know, outside of the networks, they can curse and say pretty much anything they want. They're not.
Which was
beholden.
always the known is like, I know what I'm getting if I turn to
Right.
Showtime, and if I
Right.
turn to Skinamax. You know, when I was a kid, that's what we called it. Skinamax. If I turn to Skinamax, you know, if I turn to HBO, I knew what I was getting. That was where I was going to see some stuff and hear some stuff
Right.
that I can't normally see or hear. But on regular mainstream television, network television,
Right.
come on, dude. Like, there has
Right.
to be something that says, okay, over here you don't have to worry about hearing this, and over here you do have. But
Right.
it's not like that
Because you were
anymore.
paying
They've
for that.
allowed.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
As we look at America and where we are, you know, there's no doubt that we have some work to do as a country as a whole. And some of the things, and we didn't get to it this morning, but some of the things that makes this thing circular is when people talk about the Great Replacement theory, and they use that for acts of violence and justification for violence, right? And so, and I'm leading to the current events of what happened in Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know, we have different things moving inside this country all the time, and they talk about it being a nation of laws, and that's great that it's a nation of laws, but those laws aren't going to determine how someone acts. It may prohibit someone from doing and acting the way they really want to, but as a nation of laws, we say that makes us a great country because we're run by laws and not by a dictator. But when we allow these other things to thrive inside of our country, whether it's the Great Replacement theory, the neo-Nazism, or any type of extreme views, then that's a bump that we have to get over that creates problems. And then these different segments of society pop up. And a friend of mine, of course, he was my professor of military science when I was in ROTC. He said he was a young kid in when World War II started. He said that their town used to be a German American town. He said one day they came through and said, you're either an American or you're not. And they got rid of everything that said German in their town, and they became just regular Americans. That works for them because they have European descent, right? We aren't able to become regular Americans. I asked a friend of mine, I said, you're an American. You call me an African American, but I was born here too. Why aren't we calling you a European American? And so my point is that because there is a difference in hue or melanin, there's always going to be a difference in how we see things, because they were able to disappear into whiteness. No matter how much I want to be an American, every government form says I'm an African American, not an American. Yep. And so those types of things are going to always be until someone says we have to move past that. And regardless of how you got here, you are here now. You are one of us, talking about the division and the layers of separation. Yep. And so until we can move past that, all these other things are always going to come back around and keep us traveling in the same path.
Absolutely. Yeah. At our press conference yesterday that Michon referenced to, well, first of all, we were at King Solomon Missionary Baptist Church. Dr. Charles Elliott walked and worked with Dr. King, and he emphasized that we are one race of people, and we prayed. But then we also spoke about, in 2017, we had the rally at the Capitol, and we encouraged the governor and state representatives to take color off the government forms. And their response when I spoke to the governor's office, well, Peter, we kind of agree with you. It shouldn't be on there, but the federal government demands that we keep track of this. And so I brought it up yesterday. Well, that means that our federal government is white supremacist because there are no different races of people. And what was interesting, we challenged the media, said, you guys need to stop using skin color to define people, and we're going to hold you accountable. And anyway, it was kind of interesting because the 3 TV stations were like, if you use skin color, to define people, you are a white supremacist media outlet. And boy, oh boy, it was interesting. But I did tell him, and we're serious from now on, if any media uses white, black, blah, 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 we're going to label them a white supremacist media outlet. Then they're going to have to defend themselves why they are not white supremacists, but they still use the language of white supremacy. And they caught it. One of the reporters was a DAS gentleman, and he said, yeah, Peter. And because his question was, as a follow-up was, well, how does this impact the fact that a white man when it killed black people? So we said, well, you're part of the problem. There you go. You're obviously there's some context, but why are you using that language? And I think, the people around me were like, okay, yeah, that's a very deep issue because that's a cultural thing for our whole country. And we've talked about it on the Truth Be Told show as well.
Sure. What do you think about it as it relates to African Americans as well?
Well, I think when you put it in, there's a context, right? And so I intentionally don't mention a person's ethnic background sometimes when I'm talking to people, and I can see them leaning on the edge of their seat, waiting for me to further define them so that they can put them in the proper pecking order of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, chief of police, and we were talking about it, and I was describing the situation to him. And at the very end of the conversation, he just had this look on his face. And I said, Chief, I said, I know what your problem is. I didn't say whether the person I was talking about was black or white, and you haven't been able to put them in the proper context of the conversation yet.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, and he said, Marcus, he said, you're right. He said, I was waiting for that so I could get a proper frame of the situation. Exactly. And he said, I never realized I did that before. And we all do it to some degree.
We all do it. It's second nature.
Absolutely.
We all do it as second nature because that is how we've been bred. Just think about it. If you think about it, you got parents, it's normal to where like you can have a bad parent, right? And the parent teaches the kids all type of bad stuff. So, you can have a bad government and they teach us all type of bad stuff.
Sure.
And then, in this case, we don't get to rotate the bad parents in and out, but you get to rotate the government in and out. And we're supposed to be able to do what is right for us based on voting and getting in the better parents, and because in a sense, that's kind of how this is. These are our parents telling us what to do, what not to do, telling us to illegally pay taxes when we know good and well it ain't legal, but they'll lock you up if you do, if you don't, it's ridiculous, what we got in this country. But I want to circle back real quick as we close out. But I want to circle back to the New York thing because the shooting, we kind of glazed over it real quick.
Oh, can you read some of the comments too as well?
Yeah, I'll do that. And so let me, so I'll read the comments and then I'll circle back here. Law only determines a mediocre level of goodness, not excellence. That's Sharam Sadai. And let's see here. I think America should get rid of the word African Americans or the phrase African Americans. Black people are true Americans, no different from the white. So he's like he did one with one hand, and then with the other hand, he was like, if me Sean was here, I think his head would have exploded to see Ali say, get rid of African Americans and then black. So the idea is descendants of American slaves, because getting rid of the color construct. So no more white, no more black. Black was set up in 1619 as a way to describe the slave class, right? Yeah. So that's where they came up with the term black, and then they said white to describe the elite, right, or those that are not the slave class. So again, the idea is to descendants of American slaves, getting rid of all of that versus European Americans, because if you are non-melanated, then you pretty much come from all of that, right? I don't know what we're going to do about the Middle Eastern community and all of that. We just, I don't know. They just hang in the balance. That's it.
Well, no, they said they added a new word called non-white. Remember, if you look at government forms, there's a non-white section too.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then colored. Yep. The whole history.
Overcompensating for low self-esteem, the thug culture. Thanks, Mr. Just Ask Joe. See, you're going to get me beat up next time I go to Park Hill. Only in America, African Americans are the pioneering freedom of the melanated community in other countries. All right.
Yeah, we need to censor that word.
Absolutely. I think the issues between the melanated and non-melanated are not limited to America. They can be found in all predominantly non-melanated countries. Yes,
Is
we
that
do
like,
have a
is
lot
that
of
like
cleanup to
sweet,
do.
is that like sweet tea and unsweetened tea?
There you go. That Oreo cookie. Let's see. I like Marcus to run for office. He's passionate and gifted with clear words and ideas.
Marcus Ray for governor 2024. How about that?
Marcus Ray's already bought his RV, and in 2 years I'll be doing this show from the road.
Exactly. I mean, you see how cool and mellow tone Marcus stays. That's because he's moving closer to retirement.
Yeah, you got that right.
That's exactly what that is. I talked to Leonard Walker, and he ain't yelling and screaming no more. He's retired.
He's planting his garden.
Thank you, Peter, for explaining the percentage of election. That was great to bring up those good numbers. I have so much respect when I see an African man dressed in respectful clothing. It's funny, but the first thing I thought just in that first statement was, seeing a guy in African garb,
right,
in respectful clothing, standing in Home Depot. Just like they say, eat what you like, but dress what people like. Absolutely. You should not, you can't dress what you like, because you may like to walk around the house in drawers and nothing else. You get arrested if you come outside doing that. But if you're dressed in drawers and you're pushing a basket, you won't get arrested. So just remember that. So real quick, I wanna circle back, like I said, and I want to play something on this the shooting, because I'll be honest, I stay in a bubble. I do not watch regular TV.
Yeah.
So even when you guys were talking about the shooting, I didn't even know it happened.
I didn't either. I got it on the news. On my
I don't watch.
Me neither.
Exactly. And I limit a lot of notifications. Somehow or another, like these notifications always will pop up, and then I have to go to each one as they come on my phone, and I hit the settings button and I end that notification or whatever, because I don't need to know everything. I don't want to know everything. I got enough stress between child support and my life in general. I don't want anything extra. I like to be able to control the level of stress that is being put on me on a day-to-day basis. So here, I'm gonna show you guys this here. We'll watch this video on the shooting, and this is for people like myself out there that don't know the specifics of what was going on. But this is talking about, let me just say this. This is talking about experts question whether America can face its far-right extremist problem. Far-right extremists. That is, and this is ABC News, so that is so biased of a headline. It's ridiculous. But
they're pushing that narrative. If there's a far right, there's a far left. There's more far leftists than are far rightists, but they're both dangerous.
Absolutely. There's all type of anytime you go far is dangerous, because that means you ain't got no cell signal. It's a problem. Can't call nobody. You not you out of touch with society. Let's peek this out.
Our Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas. Pierre, more evidence we're facing just an epidemic of violence and hate in this nation.
George, good morning. The numbers tell the story. From Friday through 9:30 last night, there were 312 gun violence incidents in the U.S., where 127 people were killed, at least 294 wounded, 72 hours in America. Stunning chronic epidemic gun violence, George.
And Pierre, it's pretty clear now that some signs, important signs, were missed in the Buffalo massacre.
That's right. Multiple law enforcement sources telling us that during the suspect's senior year in high school, he allegedly wrote a paper where he mentioned murder-suicide. School officials contacted the state police. There was an investigation, but no charges were filed, and the matter was apparently dropped. About a year later, this same young man was able to legally buy the assault weapon used to kill all those people. And there's great frustration about the suspect's obsession with white supremacy and past mass shooters. Authorities are investigating apparently repeated hate-filled posts on major social media platforms, which may have been written by the killer. It was all right there.
Pierre Thomas, thanks.
I tell you what, man. I absolutely don't get it and don't understand. You pull somebody to the side in high school that says, I like mass shootings. I want to kill everybody. Lock his ass up. Then that's it. Period. You know what I mean? How many of these we got to go through? Because this has happened before where, some kids, the signs were there. All right. Now, this is what I'm going to say. The DAS community, if you had asked us, oh, he writing about, lock him up. Lock him up. But, Europeans, they be too nice. You know what I mean? You be too nice on this. Oh, he's just a young kid and he's, he's just expressing himself. He's a little angry and he's a lot of angry. 127 people killed. Where did he stand at? Where was he at? Where was this?
No, Buffalo, there was 10 killed and wounded. That was the whole country.
Oh,
Right.
that was okay.
Yes, that was
I was about to
misleading.
say, like,
and
God.
they were misleading in that. I do believe that,
Yeah.
we condense them down into colloquial phrases and say, he has the complexion for protection, stuff like that. But mental illness, right? Mental illness happens in the European community. It's mental illness. And so we can't throw a blanket, right? We can't throw a blanket over the entire European community because that's mental illness. But in the very same breath, they would throw a wide casting net over our community and make it seem that it's instead of it being an isolated incident, that it is a community-wide situation. And so I think in how we look at those is that,
Well, they call it a mass shooting.
well, they call it a mass shooting, but when you look at talking about controlling guns and I have my firearms and I will die with them. I'm not going to give them up to anybody, but they aren't assault weapons either. So when we take the Second Amendment and say that we shall have the right to bear, shall not be infringed upon, that in the context of which it was written, right? Because I asked myself, well, if I have the means to buy me a rocket launcher or an RPG, is that a weapon that I can bear on, I can bear that arm? Well, they can tell me, no, that's a weapon of war, blah, blah, blah. And they wouldn't let me have that. Right. But we don't do that same thing for military grade weapons that have been civilianized.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with those weapons being available. Not that they want to take your arms, but what do you need that type of being able to inflict that type of damage on a civilian population? Now, that's a different question.
Well, Marcus, you got to understand, one day there might be the government coming into my house and I'm going to need to protect myself. I'm going to need to protect myself and I'm going to need some real weapons to fight some real weapons.
Now don't get me wrong. I had went to purchase an AR-15 and they're on back stock. I had to wait in line to get one.
Yeah.
Right. And so the price on them had more than almost doubled when the time I ordered it to the time they told me I could get it. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to pay that kind of money for one. So I just changed my mind about it. But when I first went to buy one, they were only like $1,000. Now you can get one. It cost you about $2,000 to get one, you know,
Wow.
with the different things you want on. And so I changed my mind. I said, well, I don't need one that bad, but I just wanted to have it. Right. And so that's what a lot of people say. But in the instances where a person exhibits tendencies toward that, they just did a background check on him, send him to the hospital and send him on his way without figuring out what radicalized him or what got him that far to the right. And they do the same thing with anybody that got that far to the left. You know, when I was in Afghanistan, we had a kid. We ran the detention facility there in Bagram. We had a 12-year-old in there, and the State Department called us almost every day saying, you got a kid, he's a juvenile, you need to cut him loose. And our thing back to him was, you don't understand, this is a killer. He has killed Americans, and we just can't treat him like a juvenile walking the streets of America. And we fought with them for months about whether we should treat him as a juvenile or the killer that they made him into. And so my point is that we often try to handle juveniles with a different set of rules, and sometimes you can't. And when we can figure out when you can't do that, I think we'll be much better off. But the initial inclination is that we want to treat them as a juvenile because they're still developing and they're still doing some things that may grow out of, and then we give them a pass because they're juvenile. And sometimes you can't. Is my only point. Sometimes you just can't.
That would be the same conversation of rape and abortion. You know, I mean, sometimes you know, sometimes there's things that may warrant abortion. You know, and you know, I'm hoping God ain't trying to bring babies, messiahs through rape. You know, because I mean, I'm in agreement with Hall on that one too. But someone says out in the crowd, it says, I am careful not to accept the first news reports on this kind of event, even as it seems that the media gets the facts wrong very often.
Thank you,
Sadly.
Ambrose. Yeah. Ambrose is
And-
totally right. They're almost always wrong the first thing because it's hearsay. And, you know, back in the day when there was only 3 news channels, you know, they had all day and the newspapers to check into this stuff. Now they want to get it on first, as you know, Joe, in the digital world, because if you're the first one to report it, everyone in the world gets to see it. And look at
because if you're the first one to report it, and this is interesting, my youngest son's mother is a TV producer and you know, a lot in news production, and she says it's like 3 major websites that news outlet goes to get any type of reporting that they show about something. Reporters upload their report or their video reporting that they did on whatever event or whatever thing to there's like only 2 or 3 major sites. And then that's where all the news outlets goes to get news from, you know? So whether it's factual, right, wrong, or whatever, I don't know how much fact checking is being done with things, but, oh, here's a story about such and such. Let's go ahead and let's grab this one. We'll contact the reporter, let him know that we're you know, he's in Utah somewhere. We're going to show his story. We're going to follow up with it and use his video footage. Right.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how that works because, you know, who's to say that that's not all being manipulated in a lot of cases. And then even when we talk about this young man, you know, that did this Buffalo shooting, I mean, back in high school, it was evident that this dude was a killer. I almost feel like that somebody, you know, the charges were dropped or whatever, you know, police were involved. Charges were dropped back in high school from when he wrote what he wrote then. I almost wouldn't put it past the idea that the extremists on the far right pulling him by the side and saying, hey, let me coach you a little bit and grooming him to get him to this point. And send them out there, just like we've seen and know about extremists in other countries and stuff like that, and how they
coddle
coddle these young boys and they groom them into becoming the bombers that they are, because they're gonna go to hell and get 12 virgins. Like, you might be hot and burning, but guess what? You got 12 chickadees around you that's
Joe, it's they're going to heaven and they got 72 virgins.
Yeah.
Don't undersell. Now, maybe I wouldn't do it for 12, but 72 virgins.
Hey,
Well,
I mean, I always walk away from
in America. Where are they going to
man.
find 72 virgins?
I never wanted a virgin when I was a young man at all. I didn't want the attachment.
One of the things I think we look at is, and I mentioned it earlier, we're talking about the replacement theory and some of that, or the great replacement theory. You know, some of our lawmakers have supported that same theory. You know, Steve King out of Utah, the lieutenant governor in Texas, and some people on the House floor have even talked about this great replacement theory. And so things like that are the underlying pieces.
Explain what that
the great replacement theory. In simple terms, it states that the welcoming immigration policies, particularly those impacting non-white immigrants, are part of a plot designed to undermine or replace the political power and culture of white people living in the Western culture. Now, if you remember, there's a couple of times where President Trump said, I don't mind immigrants as long as they come from places like Sweden and Finland and places like that. Remember, he said that on TV. I'm not against immigration.
It's that can bring me some cheese.
Yeah, they've got to come from places over here, not from these places like Central America. And so that is the underlying theory behind several of these different attacks, is that whether it be the Jewish community, they behind the plot to replace, and so they've got people killing them in Pittsburgh synagogue, killing Jews. You got people that believe that Latinos are invading this country and they're killing them down in Texas, and so or even in Boston, right? So this thing covers anybody that's non-white. And so because of that, those people out there on the fringes that get wrapped up in this and believe that that's happening, then they go out and think they're in a war and they're killing the enemy. And the people that we trust in the halls of Congress are out there saying the same thing. And then how can we say to this young man that you're wrong when the people that are supposed to be leading us on the floor of the Senate and the floor of the House saying the same thing and validating what he's doing by saying that that's true? So it might not be all his fault.
Yeah, but that's a little bit different because he attacked African American descendants of American slaves, not immigrants.
Well, but if you
pure
look at the
racial
replacement theory,
hatred.
but the replacement theory only says that anybody that's non-white is looking to take this country from us. And so the fact that they were descendants of American slaves, they're non-white according to this replacement theory. And so what I'm saying is when those people stand in the halls of Congress and Tucker Carlson and all the rest of them that say, this is what's happening to our country, they are taking us over, we are at war, we are being invaded, and they are the enemy. That's what they're saying. And then when this young man goes and acts on that, we say that it's his problem. And some of it's his, but it's also those people that stand in the halls of Congress saying the same thing, validating what he already believes to be true. That's the real problem, is that people are standing in the halls of power saying that you are absolutely right. And they don't do something to stop
it. It is a good point. But I guess it's one thing to think something and speak something, but act out. I mean, that's the difference with this young gentleman. With a lot of these shooters, I mean, the Parkland shooter had the same thing. That was so many red flags. But then the civil libertarians, ACLU, and the law saying, unless they actually do something, wrong or commit a crime, you can't prejudge them that they may commit a crime. But I think those are serious things as a community. We have to say, if you believe in, if you're talking about shooting up a high school, which he did, that should be a red flag. The law enforcement does have the power right now to flag that person and take away his guns.
Well, true, but we're talking about giving him the opportunity to go through some psychological things and doing that. But there's a difference between where you're headed, saying that he has to take some of that responsibility onto himself. But as we've heard Joe say many a times, if I believe and I'm repeatedly told something, that it will manifest itself somehow in my actions. And so if I can watch Tucker Carlson, or I can watch Green, or any of those other people stand on the floor of the people that have power in this country and say that is accurate, we are under attack, we are being invaded, they are the enemy, they are trying to take something from you, and then I manifest that, and then at some point I act on it, and then they cut me loose. They've all cut him loose now, and I don't know that, but I'm saying they've all cut him loose because not one of them has changed their rhetoric that they put on the floor of the House.